am part of the DR USA team. In case you've been trying to figure out my accent, I'm not originally from the United States. I'm actually originally from the UK, but I live in Texas now. I'm married to Texan. So it's been an interesting transition, but it's been a great adventure nonetheless. The other person I would love to introduce you to on our team is Kurt Clement. So Kurt Clement is our Executive Director of DR USA. Some of you may know Kurt from his role in coaching at DR for the many years that he's been involved with parish ministry in this country. He comes with a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we're just really excited to be a part of this together with you. Because the final part of our team really at this stage is you. You as parish leaders make up DR in the USA. You have this huge wealth of knowledge and experience to share. You are the people who are in the trenches and living this experience of what it looks like to move our parishes from maintenance to mission. So we hope that these gatherings offer opportunities for those stories to have space, for those stories to be told, for us to encourage one another in this process. All right, Kurt, how about you tell me a little bit about why we are doing these From the Trenches online events?
Yeah, I think one of our values with Divine Renovation is, we don't just want to operate on the level of theory and about vision and mission and renewal and evangelization. We really want to be about, we're from the trenches. I'm from the trenches. Father James, our founder, is started at St. Benedict's, and now he's in another parish. Like, we just really believe that they're unique challenges, but also opportunities to leading change in a parish. And it's hard to really grasp the unique nature of a parish if you haven't actually really done it. And so we love to gather with other practitioners in the trenches to hear real life stories and not just talk theory. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kurt and I were actually having this opportunity to be on the road earlier last week, actually. It was just a week ago. We were up in Michigan and we were visiting a parish, and during our lunch break, we just started talking about this topic of parish council. So it was just really interesting that came up. What were your thoughts, Kurt?
Yeah, it really highlighted to me how, challenging of a topic this can be, because it was a diocese that there's a lot of senior leadership teams that's becoming more common. And so there's a lot of skepticism that you can actually do both, and that maybe you only need the senior leadership team, and just questioning practically that a parish council can be helpful towards the change. So yeah, just the unique challenge of it. I think that's, it's kind of like in the promotion, I think we said of it is, for many people, the parish council is they see it as some post-Vatican II 70s church gone wrong. There's a Twitter account called Susan from the Parish Council. It's a mockery of parish councils. So I think in a lot of church contexts in many parishes, people haven't seen it done in a way that maybe inspires them, or maybe has made people question that parish councils can be really important part of leading the parish forward. But I think we're seeing different, and that's what we're excited to touch on today.
Absolutely, and we'll have an opportunity later on in our session to have some interviews from parishes that are just trying to do some new things. Kurt, what can parish leaders expect from some of these sessions? What's the breakdown and the flow?
Yeah, so we'll take probably 5 to 10 minutes max at the beginning to share some of the principles that are common when we work with parishes, when we accompany parishes. We're not a prescriptive model. There's no silver bullet, but we're rooted in principles of missionary renewal in parishes. And then we accompany pastors and their teams to, help them explore what those principles mean in their unique context. So currently, Divine Renovation, we work with about 300 parishes globally, big, medium, small, big staff, medium staff, no staff, rural, urban, suburban, but all really trying to bring the missionary mandate of the gospel to the top, to the priority, to really embrace that identity in the life of the parish. So we all share that in common, and how we get there, it looks different in different contexts. So I'll start off with some of the principles in the first few minutes, and then we'll just invite on our guests and hear their on the ground experiences.
Yeah, and then when we've had an opportunity to talk with our guests, there's actually going to be an opportunity for Q&A. So if you, as we're going through, we would love to invite all of our people here today to put in the chat any questions that come up, any comments of things that are striking you, anything that if we're paying attention to what the Lord is doing in our own hearts, you're like, man, that's really stood out to me today. We love to hear that feedback. But please particularly do put in any questions that you would love to have forwarded to our guests, because Kurt's going to pass it back to me at some stage, and I'm going to make sure that I've gone through some of those and I've picked them out to share with everybody. So there's going to be an opportunity for Q&A. Any that we don't get round to in this session today, I'm hopefully going to send an email by the end of the week, so we'll be able to follow up with you in your particular parish or context. So this month's topic about the pastoral counsel for the missional church, I think it's just such a fresh topic. It's a totally new way of looking at doing these things, and just sort of speaking into the church in a new season. So Kurt, over to you.
Yeah, let's dive in. Or I guess we're kind of flying high for a minute, and then we'll dive down into the trenches with our guests. So I'm going to try one more technology thing. I've never done this before. It's a new feature I saw on Zoom. So pardon me if it comes across as cheesy, but it seemed to be an effective way to try to share a PowerPoint. Here we go. All right. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Oh, my Lord. So, all right, we'll give this a try here. We're experimenting. So, just I have basically 4 principles I just want to lean into, break open with everyone here. And, the first is there is this underlying principle in missionary renewal that Father James does an incredible job of outlining in the book, Divine Renovation. But it is just the need to empower the laity, and that the call to mission is universal. And Father James says in the book on page 28, he says, without any academic attempt to support my statement, I would like to claim that the central theological insights of all 16 conciliar documents can be summed up in the following phrases: the universal call to holiness and the universal call to mission. That we are all the baptized are called to holiness and to mission. And so that's a part of, an important aspect of renewal is trying to empower and unleash the gifts within the laity. The second principle is this: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And this is really about teams, as we talk about empowering the laity, one of the best ways to do it is by building teams and to help work to work in teams to move things forward. It's one of the dimensions of leadership where we coach and support pastors in Divine Renovation. And setting up the right teams with the right leaders, with the right focus and the right meetings is really critical. Some common teams could include an evangelization team, a hospitality team, a liturgy team, a clergy team. Senior leadership teams are becoming more common, or sometimes they're called parish leadership teams, SLTs or PLTs, and in many cases a parish council. And parish councils can be a type of team that serves a unique purpose in the parish that will be the focus of our conversation today. So, if we set up and support all of our teams, councils, committees effectively, they can be incredible opportunities to increase commitment and buy-in from the laity while tapping in to the gifts of the body of Christ. So the third point is a favorite leadership principle of mine. It's very challenging, but it's from Brene Brown. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And in most parishes, there are mixtures of councils, committees, and teams that can be wonderful, but oftentimes there isn't clarity about the purpose and function of each group and where they fit into the overall structure of the parish. Sometimes we'll say, hey, what does the parish council do? And like, well, we advise, do this, we do special projects. Sometimes there's not the clarity that I think we need. And we really, whether it's the parish council or any other team, we owe it to our people who come forward and sacrifice so much time and energy that we have laser clarity about these leadership roles we're inviting them into. You know, it's unkind and incredibly disempowering to be invited into a leadership group only to feel like it's a big waste of time. And many people have had this experience in parish life. So I'll never forget when I was a young youth minister some 25 years ago, and I think I was 26 years old. Yeah, 26. And I had this long training for youth leaders on a Saturday. And let's say I was very green and probably didn't plan as well as I could have. I didn't. And at the end of the day, a volunteer, thank you, Davin, he pulled me aside and out of charity, he said, Kurt, he said, burnout is not a function of asking too much of people's time. Burnout is a function of not making good use of people's time. And man, that really challenged me. It struck me. And ever since then, I've tried to really make sure I plan meetings well and just remember that. I think people will give and sacrifice incredibly if they feel like they're making a difference. But when they start to, not feel that, then that's where the disengagement and frustration sets in. So we want to be really clear. That's one of the biggest challenges we have as leaders, is to continue to press in, because parish life's messy and it's not always clear. But where there is unclarity, we need to press into that unclear. I got the typo there. And then the fourth point I want to just end on before you invite our guests is the balancing vision and action. Vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision just passes the time. Vision with action can change the world. And this just highlights the balance between vision and action. Or sometimes it might be expressed in the balance between leadership and management. There's a great book. It's in our recommended list on the guide, the leader guide that we'll send you. There's a book called Leading Change by John Cotter. And on page 29, he gives an incredible explanation of the difference between management and leadership. And I love the image of a sailboat, that we need a sail, but we also need a rudder. And the sail is vision, is leadership, moving things forward towards a different horizon. But the rudder is what holds us steady and keeps us moving along that path. And it's kind of like how to understand leadership and management. And, if you have all vision and no management or maintenance, and then things can get wonky and get off track. But if we have all action and management without enough vision, we don't have the wind in our sails. We don't actually move. And I think this is an important principle, because I would suggest that most of our parishes become very maintenance focused, because Sunday comes every 7 days and all the sacraments. And we actually become not just like a rudder, but they become very anchored organizations. Many parishes are very anchored, and we need more wind in our sails. We need people, and we need the processes that'll help us continue to move forward in a new direction. So, but once again, what gives me most hope about this isn't these principles, and let me stop the share, or any theory, but it is actually the real life experience on the ground that gives me a lot of hope. And a couple of the examples are from two of our guests that we have with us today. So I want to now invite on Scott Ingleton and Missy Grant. So let me begin with Missy, and just welcome, Missy. It's great to have you. And just introduce yourself.
All right. Well, thanks. It's great to be here. Hi, everybody. I'm super excited to see people from all over the country. Hopefully you guys feel the same way, because I know a lot of time with us, it's like, we're doing it and we're doing it, and we forget that we aren't alone. So you're not alone, and welcome to the journey wherever you are in the process. My name is Missy Grant. I am the Pastoral Council Chair for St. Anne Parish in Coppell, Texas, which is a suburb north of Dallas, just north of DFW Airport. I've been a parishioner there for, well, a really, really long time. And I actually started as a parishioner about the time that Kurt started in youth ministry there. So that's been a real fun journey. I've been part of our parish council for 4 years and in a leadership role for probably about 2.5. So we are into our second round of our strategic plan and have navigated so much, and we still have so much to navigate and work through. And it's been really refreshing and challenging and amazing to watch. So really excited to be here and to be on the journey.
Thanks, Missy. Yeah, you're doing great work at St. Anne. It's just such a gift. It's Missy and the team there. They've always been like wind in the sails, you know, as you just always get pulled back, and to have that team and what they've been able to do is really been a real game changer for our parish. Scott, I met Scott just a few weeks ago when I was visiting his parish in Yorkville, Illinois. So Scott, welcome.
Morning, everybody. Really happy to be here with everybody. It's a pleasure to kind of share what we've been doing, and also hopefully learn from this group as well. You know, the questions, the answers, because it is a constant process that we're going through. So as Kurt mentioned, I'm the parish council lead at St. Patrick's in Yorkville, Illinois. Yorkville, Illinois is, depending on traffic, either a suburb of Chicago or a suburb of Iowa, because it takes about the same amount of time to get there sometimes. But I've been a member of this parish for 16 years and had been leading the pastoral council for the last 2 years, kind of under its new revised edition. Have had multiple roles in various parishes over the years, led RCIA, lector, lots of planning committees, that sort of thing. And let's see what else. Really, that's it. I got a wife. 2 weeks from today is my 25th wedding anniversary. Oh, so nice. Yay for marriage. And I got like 3 college age kids. So life is still very busy for me. So awesome. Happy to be here. Look forward to the conversation.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. And happy early anniversary. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And just once again, as we go along here, if you have any questions that pop up throughout our discussion, we will make time for question and answer this time. We didn't do a great job last time, but we will get to those. So, you know, one of the points of this webinar was that there is an opportunity, I think, here with parish councils to invite people who have gifts around strategy, leadership, vision. They're just kind of good at being successful, to invite them into leadership and in the parish. So can you guys share a little bit of your backgrounds that maybe lend themselves to the role that you play on the parish council? So Missy, why don't you start off?
Sure. So I have been a stay-at-home mom for about 12 years. I have 4 smallish people. They're not so small anymore, which is why I get to do this stuff too now. But prior to that, so I've spent the last like 12 years learning humility and patience and but prior to that, I have worked in mostly corporate environments, primarily in the technology industry. And I've worked across a variety of fields, mostly in marketing and communications, but also with process management. One of the things that I was sharing with Kurt earlier is that I worked with, our CEO was from IBM, so she was extremely process oriented. And for a while, we, the marketing department, were running process management for the entire company for a big, huge certification program. And at the time I was like, we're marketing, why are we doing processes? This doesn't even match up. And so much of what I learned through that process, we've been applying through the focus and the lens of design renovation as we take our parish through strategic planning. So a lot of those skills that I was learning back then that I took a break from for a while, God's really used those in a way that I never could have imagined. And so that's sort of my professional background. So lots of communication, lots of detail orientedness, and then some ministry leadership between here and there during those 12 years back through different organizations within the parish that also helped from a leadership standpoint as well.
Yeah, it's been so cool seeing once again, it's empowering the gifts and the laity, seeing your gifts and other people working alongside you. It was always such a joy because I always worked in a parish, and most of us that were working in the parish, we just don't have the experience with some of those processes and planning that are, wow, I've always been just amazed to be a part of those gifts that you've brought forward in the life of the parish. So Scott, what about you? What are your, tell us a little bit more about your background and how
Yeah, so from a corporate standpoint, I've basically been in sales and sales leadership my whole career. I've been with the same company for 26 years now. And a big chunk of that was in sales, but then I've led and managed some very large sales teams in regions across the globe. I currently am a global account manager, so I do a lot of global travel, interacting with people in various regions of the world. And it's interesting because you hear Missy talk about processes and a lot of that. While I do work for a big company that's got a lot of process driven stuff, it's a large corporation, right? Lots of that red tape. I think my experience from a sales and leadership standpoint is really some of the strengths that I bring to the table, right? I'm leading a team. To be honest, there's a part of parish council that's sales focused, right? We're trying to come up with what to meet the needs of the parish, come up with what that solution looks like, and really sell it to SLT, sell it to Father, sell it to the parish. So, I think there's some applicable skills, and I think it highlights the fact that, all different shapes and sizes can really round out a parish council, right? It's not a cookie cutter thing, right? And everybody brings their strengths to the table, and those strengths differ person to person. And so, we can't get pigeonholed on, this person has to be doing this, right?
Exactly.
Or this sort of background.
Absolutely. That's a great point. It was like process, but then there's the people side of it and influencing change. I mean, I think about from my experience at St. Anne, we had a member of the parish council. She's still in the parish council. I don't think she's barely 30 years old, pregnant with her 6th child. She is an off the charts visionary, dreamer, and influencer. Unbelievable. So, and that's a part of the process. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about the process of identifying a well-rounded team, because I think you make a great point. I just want to maybe take a little bit of a step back on the topic of this, is the Pastoral Council for a Missional Church. We talk a lot about mission, becoming missionary. I just want to hear kind of each of you in your own words of how you understand what it means to become a missional church. We'll start with you, Scott, this time.
Yeah, the missional church thing starts with the pastor, right? We're blessed at St. Pat's to have an amazing pastor in Father Matt, who really, was a new priest when he got to St. Pat's, and was really just looking to change things and make things new. And he's gone through some different processes, but I think he anchored on divine renovation and really understood the power that a church on mission can really bring, and as a result, it really has started from the top and trickled down, and all of the leadership, all of the pastoral council, we're all engaged and bought in on the divine renovation. By the way, you could use this as your commercial for your next thing, but we're all bought in on divine renovation and what it means to be a church on mission. It's priority number one. Evangelization is the thing. We talk about it all the time. It's foundational to everything we do. But it's got to start from the top, and you got to have the people bought in along the way.
That's great. Thanks, Scott. What about you, Missy? How would you, what do you understand when we talk about being a missional church? How do you understand that?
Well, I think what it looks like is, to Scott's point, really different from one parish to another, but it really is focused up and out and not in. I think a lot of times at St. Anne, we have an awesome parish. Even before we started divine renovation, it was awesome. And I think what's changed for us in really focusing on mission is focusing on inviting people into a relationship with Jesus, not just teaching them what it means to be Catholic. And they're not mutually exclusive, obviously, but really helping people understand the up and the out, and that there's a flow there from our relationship with the Lord out into the community, whether that means the community at large around DFW or globally, but that it's not just about filling the people's souls who are sitting in the pews. It's about bringing people to Jesus in a real relational kind of way.
That's great. That's
Yeah,
great.
hey, Kurt,
Yeah.
if I could add one more thing too, because I think it's just kind of a concrete example. So we recently had a big kind of like post-COVID welcome back event, right? And there was one banner and one table at the event, and it was an alpha banner and a welcome table. And we advertised on social media about this event, and it was all focused on being welcome. And to Missy's point, it was outward focused. Yeah, it was a big celebration for the parish, but it was all about, hey, everybody, welcome back, come on back, and we didn't have ministry tables. It was alpha and everybody come on in. That was it.
Well, it's so inspiring to hear just you guys really how kind of bought in, Scott. That's the one thing you told me when I saw you there. You're like, look, I'm bought into this. And, and you hear one thing that I hear about parish groups is actually doing like a book study of divine renovation. I talked to a pastor in Alabama a couple of weeks ago, and he said they had 30 people in their parish do a divine renovation book study. And he said there were people with tears at the end, renewed hope for what their parish can be. So I love hearing how you guys have gotten including your parish council, bought into what it means to be a missional parish. That's really inspiring. So when we talk about the parish council being a strategic leadership group, like what does that practically look like? How does the group, dream and discern and kind of do strategic planning? Can you share a little bit about that process? Scott, you want to start?
Yeah. So, our parish council is exactly designed to be a strategic planning body. When we have our meetings, we are, just as it's defined in the book, we are the new version of a parish council. When we have our meetings, we don't have ministry report outs. We don't have, any real conversations about the day-to-day functioning of the parish. Now, we get an update from the SLT as part of our meetings around, the important stuff that would affect our plan. But our pastoral council is strictly focused on building out the strategic plan, executing the strategic plan, and reviewing and revising the strategic plan going forward, short-term, medium-term, long-term. And that is all we do. And so it is, I mentioned earlier, I've been on parish councils, kind of the old model parish councils in the past, and it is 100% completely different what we do. And it's refreshing. It's challenging because, like, okay, well, what are we working on? But there's always things to be done as it relates to executing on a strategic plan and revising it. So, but that's what it is. It is all about the plan.
That's great. Missy, anything you'd add to that?
Exactly the same. We have a slightly different model in that because we kind of grew into divine renovation concurrently with our pastoral council and our strategic leadership team. So because of the business acumen that we had that Kurt referenced earlier, and because of the composition of our senior leadership team, we also have taken on sort of a mentor role with the parish council, with SLT, in that we built the plan together, but when it comes to implementation, we at pastoral council are not implementing, but we are working with our SLT kind of in teams and partners to say, how's it going? How can how can I help you? And really helping them understand what it means to implement a plan, because again, that's a real new skill for our team. So I think that would be the only thing that I would add from like a day-to-day perspective. We've got a little bit more involvement in oversight, I guess, of implementation than would be the goal. But otherwise, same thing as Scott, we're structured the same way. That's our focus. We were created as a team. We did a deep dive of divine renovation. We spent probably 6 months before we ever started building the plan on chapter by chapter. This is our discussion for the next 6 months, guys. This is how we learn what this thing is and we're actually doing a reboot right now.
Well, and for some people that might be listening to this might be kind of mind-blowingly different and hard to get your head around because it's so different than the previous model. So, this might just be your first time you're hearing some of this. And, we're here to support you as we go along. If you have more questions that come from this, we do have, once again, this leader guide, and on the back, it outlines the two roles between a parish council and an SLT, kind of like what's the focus, what's the time scale, what's the scope, and what are the tasks they do. And once again, kind of around clarity, it starts to bring laser clarity about the roles of the two groups and how they can work together. So, which you kind of referred to there, Missy, the idea of how the interplay between the parish council and the senior leadership team or parish leadership team. How does the parish council work hand in hand with this SLT and staff to make sure they aren't planning in a silo without the expertise and the on the ground leadership of the staff? This is one of the biggest concerns about this model where I hear expressed, where staff feel like parish council members are essentially trying to tell them, the on the ground experts, how to do their job. How do you manage that?
That's a great question. And it's something that it's so important when, we've been talking about buy-in, and it's really important that staff understand and buy into divine renovation. Not necessarily, like, they don't necessarily, in my opinion, need to read the book and have discussion groups on it, although that would certainly be helpful. But the staff needs to be bought into the vision that the parish has. And the role is set up so that, to use your analogy, Kurt, the pastoral council is sort of the sail to help, like, let's be up here and see where we're going. And SLT and staff, they make it happen. Like, parish council doesn't make it happen. That's SLT and staff. And so for us, sorry for the acronym, senior leadership team. For us, we have 2 members of senior leadership team by pastoral appointment on parish council, so that as we're doing our planning, those folks, it's challenging. That's a tough spot to be in, because they have to take off their senior leadership directorship hat and put on their visionary hat. But we rely very heavily on them to be able to say, like, here's the plan. Is it realistic? And we'll lean into them and say, I know that it doesn't feel comfortable, but is it realistic for this plan? And especially when we get into timelines and measures. And so we're in constant contact and communication with them on our team to be able to say, look, this is where we're heading. And here's another mind blower, and it's hard and we're still working through it. But when it comes time for budget, you budget around the plan and you put your resources where the plan is. If your priority is evangelization, then for that year, then you fund it, and you fund it with your people, and you fund it with your time, and you figure out where can we move things that this doesn't really work. And those are real hard conversations. And at that point, you really need staff to understand this is the vision, like, this is where we're going as a parish, and I'm on fire for that. What can I do to help? And that helps with some of those tensions. And because in no way I think everybody on pastoral council would say, we don't want, you guys are the experts. We are not the experts in how to run children's ministry. We're helping to see this vision of where we want to go and build the plan to get there. And you guys are doing the hard stuff.
Well, and the key point is that like you said, there's people from the senior leadership team who are a part of the parish council, and they're part of all that process. I've heard some parishes where the whole senior leadership team is also part of the parish council, or a couple or 2 or 3. It just depends. What about you, Scott? How do you guys manage that?
No, Missy nailed it. Very similar. We've got a couple. In fact, we had our whole senior leadership team initially on the pastoral council. It was a little bit too much. They were redlining a couple of people, so we kind of slimmed it down. But SLT absolutely has to be engaged on the mission and understanding what we're trying to accomplish. And we have had no conflict at all in terms of SLT pushback. Really, it's the SL trying to help and backstop the SLT in terms of the fact that they have this day-to-day working of the parish that they have to manage while still trying to meet the strategic vision of what we're trying to accomplish. And really our job, as part of our job as pastoral council, is to help them with that. So one of the things that I do is, as the parish council lead, I'll meet kind of, out of office with the SLT and just have them say, hey, here's what's going on. And I kind of advise into them and counsel them on, hey, does that really align with the plan? And what about this? And they've got, well, we need to reprioritize this. And I kind of push back. And then we take that kind of discussion and take it to the larger council, and use that to kind of advise into the plan and support what the SLT needs. So it really is it's a working relationship. It's very integrated, I would say. And, and then part of that is, hey, how can the parish council support the SLT without doing the job? And I think this is important, right? And I think Missy mentioned it, executing the strategic plan is the SLT's responsibility. However, there are capabilities and things that the pastoral council can bring to the table in support of that around some of maybe the bigger rocks associated with it. So for instance, we're, part of our strategic plan has to do with facilities and the need for more space for some of the, mission related ministries, right? So, there's a big study that kind of needs to be done around facilities. Well, the parish council will take on that role because it's part of executing at a higher level strategic plan. It takes advantages of our gifts. And it's something that probably wouldn't happen if the SLT had to do it themselves. So again, it's kind of that working together piece to really execute on the plan. But the SLT's job is to execute the plan, pastoral council, support it, guide it, be that sail.
Awesome. But yeah, I think you mentioned, both of you guys were referenced the need to get the parish, and especially anybody in a leadership position and all the staff, bought into a vision for the renewal of the parish, of being a missionary parish. Because, if you have competing visions, you have division, and so one of the big, and that's, once again, these are some of the things that we do when we accompany parishes, is helping them have clarity on the vision, working with the pastor, working with the team, and accompanying parishes. Because we learned this, Missy, from Eileen from St. Benedict, and I know she's helped with some other parishes, and you now, Missy, have been coaching Father Steve in North Shore in Chicago. And I talked to him a week ago, and his mind is blown at how far they've come over the last year. And you're going up, and you're going to see Scott, I know, this next weekend, and doing some work up in Chicago. So that's kind of what we do. I think it's a network of parishes and parish leaders supporting other parish leaders. It's a from the ground grassroots renewal movement. And so that's what we're, invite people to be a part of. So Rebecca, how about we kick it over for a couple of questions? Any questions?
Yes, absolutely. We've actually been having a lot going on in the chat going on here. We've got a couple. So let me start with, who gets to decide and invite who joins parish council? So how do we decide and identify those people in our parishes, and who's the person that does that? And a second part to that, particularly if those parishioners seem reluctant.
Missy, Scott, just take that one.
So I'll take this one, and I'm laughing because we're actually in the process of turning a couple people over on our parish council. A couple people have retired or moved out of the area, so we're in the process of discerning new members of the council. And Father Matt's like, well, is that your job? And I was like, well, I think that's your job, so we've had some conversations, Father and I, about that. And the way our current council was originally constituted is we actually, just real quick story, we actually took the old parish council and just ended it. Father Matt said, look, we're gonna kind of redo some things. They ended the old parish council, took a break, and then reconstituted a completely different council with people focused on being able to create a strategic plan. And that group was a group of people that Father Matt identified invited to kind of basically a half discernment session, half, hey, are you interested session. We had that. We kind of talked about what it is, what it looks like. And then from there, everybody kind of prayerfully discerned whether they wanted to be on it. And Father Matt kind of discerned whether he wanted them on it. And we ended up with 6 people who said yes to the call. And it worked out really well. But, you know, it was about inviting people with, you know, the gifts that we need on that council, right? It starts with alignment with the mission, energy, and then a lot of those, you know, real world skill sets to help build a strategic plan and the ability to really think about it that way versus just how does the church work.
That's great, Scott. Missy, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so we took that's awesome. We had a more transitional period, which was probably a little bit more painful for some of the folks that were involved in the transition. Our council was your traditional sort of a representative council for many, many, many years. And when our parish priest and some key leadership attended Divine Renovation, the DR conference, DR 16, came back and were really on fire and we're like, this is the change. And it just so happened. So our council was set up with 3-year terms. And it just so happened, Holy Spirit, that 5 or 6 of those members were rolling off. And we had some visionary folks that were on council at the time that really advocated strongly for a different structure. And so that initial discernment was through personal invitation based on people in SLT and current council that had bought into the vision. And it was really who do we know that we know can do this? We have since built a recruitment process, if you will, that's based similarly but we rely at this point, we are looking more at strength finders than we are at professional skills. To making sure that we have a balanced team in terms of strengths, and then along with day-to-day job, right? And we try to have Chris Blackwell's on the call. I'm going to call him out because he put this process together and it's brilliant. We kind of try to have a talent bank of at least 3 to 4 people at a time that we know kind of fill the slots, so that when somebody rolls off, because we don't have a term limit right now anymore. We discerned away from that. But as people need to leave, we have that bank sitting there that we can draw from. So I think it's a little different in terms of how do you recruit into current versus how do you recruit into a new model. I guess it's probably the short answer there.
Yeah. No, this is all so good. You guys are just such practical examples that you're sharing, you know, and I think it's important, once again, the parish council is a step in a renewal process. It's probably a step that most people get to probably after year 1 of some other work around vision, having a leadership team, starting to do some evangelization. So with Divine Renovation, we have a framework we use for coaching pastors, supporting them, and parish councils come along because it's a group, it's an important group that ends up starting to feel like, okay, where do we fit into all this? You know, and that's where getting clarity and then really leaning on them. And it's been really powerful for some of the parishes we work with. Any other? Yeah, Scott?
Yeah, I was going to add one more comment just because I feel our situation at St. Pat's was fairly unique in terms of kind of that break of, you know, stopping and starting, right? But so the previous parish council had already started engaging on the Divine Renovation process. So they were familiar with it. When we reconstituted the new parish council to create a strategic plan, we already had a vision and mission statement in place. We had already started doing things like improving the weekend experience and some of those things that are in the Divine Renovation model, right? So when we kind of cut it and restarted it, I think a lot of the people on the old parish council kind of got it because they were already invested in the Divine Renovation process. They had been to the conference, so they kind of understood the need and the reasoning behind the kind of the cut and restart piece.
Yeah.
But it is notable that nobody on the old parish council is on the new parish council. We did start fresh from that aspect.
I see one question, how many members would be ideal? And then Rebecca will go for one more. Can you guys just real quickly share about the numbers? We just have about 3 minutes. Let's try to get a couple more questions in.
We've got 6 members of the pastoral council, and then obviously the SLT members that sit in, and so that's that seems about right for us.
10 to 12 is what you end up with.
Yeah, we're gonna it's right now we're a little smaller. I'd like to see a little bit more, but yeah, we were at 10 kind of at our most functional point.
Missy, what about you?
About the same. We used to joke because we had 12 and Father Henry when it first started. So he was Jesus and we were the apostles. So I think 12 to 13 is good for us. Any bigger is feels a little unwieldy, but at one point I think we were down to about 8, and that's real hard, especially with only 2 members of SLT, because if you're the lone, like if both senior leadership team members can't make it, then you're kind of dead in the water if you're on a real big topic of strategic importance. And if you only have one person from SLT, then that's a lot of pressure on that one person to carry forward. So for us, I would say 10 to 12. 12 is great, because then if a couple people miss, you still got a good discussion group and still good decision-making capabilities. But for us, 10, I think, is probably our low threshold.
Awesome. Rebecca, you got one minute question?
A 1 minute question? I don't think so, but I do think it might be important. Just a lot of people are talking about, where do we go with this idea of vision? Like, it seems like a huge thing, right? Where is it? There's so many facets. How do we formulate one? How do you make it clear? Have you got any advice for people starting on that process?
Yeah, I mean, I think in our working definition, divine renovation for vision is a God-given picture of the future that produces passion. So it's not about necessarily a vision statement, although there can be a time and a place for a short little vision statement to recall to people's mind. It's more important of like, what is that dream of the future? Where are we going? Like, do we want to be becoming a missionary church, a church that's doesn't just exist for Catholics in an area to get their sacraments, but no, we want to be a church on mission. We want to be a missionary outpost for the Great Commission in a given area. And so for us, like I said, I was talking to a priest in Mobile, Alabama a couple of weeks ago, and he had 30 parishioners all read the book together. And I think that's where you start getting seeds of the people who get really excited, like Scott and Missy, like, this is awesome. What can I do? And they're contagious, and they start to catch the vision. And so once again, it's just kind of a part of what we do with Divine Renovation is we help through the resources, through a book, through a conference, through a webinar, to start to inspire people for a different vision for what a parish can be. So there's a lot in that. But we have some specific work we do in coaching pastors and their teams around getting clarity for their vision, how to communicate the vision, and all those sorts of things. So
yeah. Hey, Kurt, could I jump in? Yeah. So because I mentioned it earlier, right? It starts from the top, right? The pastor is, our pastor is all about this, this evangelical mission related thing. I will say, the vision statement that we created, the mission vision statement that we created, I think it is important from the fact that it is how we merchandise to the parish what we're trying to do, right? And I mean, when we created it, Father Matt had a homily series on it and why it's important, and kind of broke it down. And there's a bunch of people in our parish who literally can quote the mission statement if you ask them, right? Yeah. Transforming lives by making church matter, building disciples, and seeking and saving the lost. That is our mission statement. Everybody on pastoral council knows it. A whole bunch of people in the parish knows it, because it defines what we want to do. Now, coming up with that vision statement is hard work, but you got to start with, hey, what do we want to be? That's the question you start with, is what do we want to be? And you go from there.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
If I could just add into that, just like practically speaking, that's hard. It is real hard. Like, I don't know how many weeks our senior leadership team spent literally wordsmithing, weeks to get to our final vision, but it's painting the picture. It's like, what does it look like? What does our parish look like? Scott, I love that. The seeking and saving the lost. It's not a practical, like, we will have enough masses to accommodate all of our parishioners. It's being able to really kind of lock yourselves in a room and with the people who are on fire for what the Holy Spirit is ready to do, and being able to paint that picture, and then you wordsmith it for a while until you just say we're done, and then you get it everywhere. Yeah.
Man, Missy and Scott, you guys have been incredible resource for other parishes. And maybe this is, I think, probably for many people, the first time to hear this articulated, this vision for parish councils. So really appreciate you taking the time and being a part of this, and for your work in your parishes. It's a great gift to the church. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
Our pleasure.
Rebecca, how you want to wrap us up here? We got a few important announcements, and then we'll close in prayer.
Yes, we do. Okay, just a couple of announcements. But firstly, thank you so much to Missy and Scott for sharing just your experiences and stories. I know I was taking a whole bunch of notes during that, so thank you so much. Some short announcements. We are running these events from the trenches for parish leaders on the first Tuesday of every month. So the next one is October the 10th. That is 10 a.m. Central Time, and the topic is going to be From Classroom to Conversion, integrating RCIA into the life of the parish. So a really interesting topic of what does RCIA look like, and what does that look like in terms of your parish life. The details for how to sign up for that event will be included in the follow-up email. So we will be having a follow-up email that's going out. It's going to have all of the information about the leadership guide, as well as some of the links that I'm going to include in my my notes here that I'm doing about my announcements, as well as I'll link to this next event in October. That should be sent tomorrow. There's just a couple of tech things that we need to figure out before we do that. So please do look out for that. That should be arriving in your inboxes shortly. We also wanted to highlight a particular program called Kickstart that Divine Renovation runs. This is a no-cost, low-commitment introduction to Divine Renovation for priests. It's actually a really great opportunity to start talking about some of these principles, things like vision, what does that look like in implementation. Kurt, I know that you had a couple of things that you probably wanted to say on Kickstart.
Yeah, so we're getting ready to start several new cohorts of Kickstarts. I'm leading one on Friday. I'm facilitating with a cohort of priests, and we have a couple open spots if if anybody's interested in that one or one of the upcoming ones. But Kickstart, if for a lot of you you find this inspiring, you want to be on this journey, you're interested in wondering, how do you partner with Divine Renovation? How can Divine Renovation support you? Kickstart really is the doorway. That is where you really learn the principles and you get to connect with other priests. So it's for priests. And so just encouraging priests out there, or if not, share the information with your priests. But we have several coming up. Once again, I have one on Friday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time. I have a couple open spots. If any priests just want to jump right in, let us know. We'll get you plugged in.
Absolutely. So that is all about Kickstart. You'll find links to that in our chat. It is specifically for priests. So if you're wondering about how you ask your priest to get more involved with some of these principles, that could just be a really great opportunity to start with that. The other thing that we have going on, there's an event coming up at the end of September. It's called Love Without Limits. The information for that will also be in the chat. It's with Cardinal Tagle, Nikki Gumbel, and some other people from Alpha, as well as Divine Renovation, and it will be on September 30th for a conversation around how we live out the calling to love our neighbor in the modern world. There's 2 sessions that are going live, but for most people in the United States, you want session 2, which is 5 p.m. Eastern, so 4 p.m. Central on September the 30th. So Love Without Limits is a great opportunity to continue to engage with Divine Renovation. The other thing I wanted to mention is the Divine Renovation website. There is, if you log onto the website, an opportunity to connect with us. So if you wanted to have a conversation with Kurt to talk about your specific parish and your specific context, you can actually book some time with him to go through some of these questions. I know we didn't get around to answering everybody's question today, And I will be trying to email people with just some responses or an opportunity to connect with us if I feel like I can't put it into an email very well. So do be aware that that option does exist. And finally, we are on social media. There's Facebook, there's Twitter. Do please like, follow, share, all of that. Okay, we've got a couple of minutes before we finish. Misty, I'm going to pass over to you to lead us in prayer to close.
Awesome. Thank you. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
We praise you, Lord. We thank you so much, Holy Spirit, for your presence today. We thank you for all that you're doing in the church in the United States and globally. We thank you for the gift of divine renovation that you have inspired so many people to reclaim your vision for us as missionary people. We ask your blessing on all of those who are participating on the call. We ask that you would bring to light what needs to be brought to light, and that you would make connections where connections need to be made. And we ask, Lord, that you would just continue to pour out your Spirit into your church, into your people, and that you would empower us to bring your love to those in our daily lives and around the world. And we ask a special blessing on Kurt and Rebecca and the team, that you would continue to empower them in their mission, fill their tanks, and for all those on the call, that we can bring your light back to our parishes. And we ask this all in Jesus' most precious name. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday, or if you're listening to this at a later date, great rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Keep in touch. Reach out.